Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stota Shati Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stota Shati Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so thank you for coming to Srimad Bhagavatam class. So setting the scene, this is Sutta Goswami speaking. Of course, he's in the forest of Naimisharanya, speaking to all the great sages there. And this chapter is entitled The Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka. And Sutta Goswami explains in the beginning of the chapter that to pacify his relatives and to please his sister Subhadra, Krishna resided in Hastinapur for a few months, and after having a desire to leave Hastinapur, he went and begged the permission of his pure devotee Maharaj Yudhisthira. And Yudhisthira Maharaj, of course, granted the Lord permission to leave Hastinapur, and thus Krishna actually bowed down to his pure devotee, thanking him. And Yudhisthira Maharaj, out of great affection, they embraced Krishna and Maharaj Yudhisthira. And upon having the desire to leave, he got into his chariot and was heading out on the road. And all these pure devotees of Hastinapur were coming up, and out of great affection and love, some were crying, some were stunned, they were complex, they didn't really know what to do, that Krishna was within our association for a few months, but now he's leaving us. And some pure devotees were coming and fanning the Lord with chamaras, some were playing musical instruments, and some of the ladies were crying so much they couldn't see. And it explains how some of the royal ladies of the Kurus, to see Krishna from a different perspective, they went onto the rooftops to see Krishna, and they started praising the Lord with different verses. And in the last few days we've been hearing what these pure devotee women of Hastinapur were speaking and glorifying Krishna. And so that's what we're talking about today. That brings us to this verse. This is one of the verses of the ladies glorifying Krishna. And so this is Canto 1, Chapter 10, and Text 27. Aho pata swa yashasastarakshari kushasthali punya vrashaskari bubaha pashanti nityam yadun anugrahi shitam smithavalokam swapitim smayat prajaha Aho bata swa yashasastiraskari kushastali punya vrasaskari bubaha pashanti nityam yad anugrahe shitam smithavalokam swapitim smayat prajaha. Please chant. Matajis? Anybody else? Aho bata. How wonderful this is. Swayashasaha. The glories of the heavenly planets. Tiraskari. That which defeats. Kushastali. Dwarka. Punya. Virtue. Rashaskari. Famous. Bhuvaha, the planet Earth. Pashyanti, see. Nityam, constantly. Yat, that which. Anugraha ishitam, to bestow benediction. Smita avalokam, glance with the favor of sweet smiling. Swapitim, of the soul of the living being, Krishna. Sma, used to. Yat prajaha, the inhabitants of the place. Translation. Undoubtedly, it is wonderful that Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dwarka are always singing the soul of all living beings, Krishna, in his loving feature. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles. Purport. The heavenly planets are inhabited by demigods, like Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and Vayu, and the pious souls reach there after performance of many virtuous acts on Earth. Modern scientists agree that the timing arrangement in higher planetary systems is different from that of the Earth. Thus it is understood from the revealed scriptures that the duration of life there is 10,000 years by our calculation. 6 months on Earth is equal to 1 day on the heavenly planets. Facilities of enjoyment are also similarly enhanced, and the beauty of the inhabitants is legendary. Common men on the earth are very much fond of reaching the heavenly planets because they have heard that comforts of life are far greater than that on the earth. They are now trying to reach the moon by spacecraft. Considering all this, the heavenly planets are more celebrated than the earth, but the celebrity of earth has defeated that of the heavenly planets because of Dwarka, where Lord Sri Krishna reigned as king. 3 places, namely Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, are more important than the famous planets within the universe. These places are perpetually sanctified because whenever the Lord descends on earth, he displays his transcendental activities, particularly in these 3 places. They are perpetually the holy lands of the Lord, and the inhabitants still take advantage of the holy places, even though the Lord is now out of their sight. The Lord is the soul of all living beings, and he desires always to have all the living beings in their swarup, in their constitutional position, to participate in transcendental life in his association. His attractive features and sweet smiles go deep into the heart of everyone. And once it is so done, the living being is admitted into the kingdom of God, from which no one returns. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The heavenly planets may be very famous for offering better facilities of material enjoyment. But as we learned from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 20 and 21, one has to come back again to the earth planet as soon as the acquired virtue is finished. Dwarka is certainly more important than the heavenly planets, because whoever has been favored with the smiling glance of the Lord shall never come back again to this rotten earth, which is certified by the Lord as a place of misery. Not only this earth, but also all the planets of the universes are places of misery, because in none of the planets within the universe is there eternal life, eternal bliss, and eternal knowledge. Any person engaged in the devotional service of the Lord is recommended to live in one of the above mentioned 3 places, namely Dwarka, Mathura, or Vrindavan. Because devotional service in these 3 places is magnified, those who go there to follow the principles in terms of instructions imparted in the revealed scriptures surely achieve the same result as obtained during the presence of Lord Sri Krishna. His abode and he himself are identical, and a pure devotee under the guidance of another experienced devotee can obtain all the results even at present. Aho Bhatasva Yashasas Varaskari Kushastali Punya Rasaskari Bhuvaha Pashanti Nityam Yadun Anugrahi Shitam Smita Balokam Swapitim Smayat Prajaha. Undoubtedly it is wonderful that Dwarka has defeated the glories of the heavenly planets and has enhanced the celebrity of the earth. The inhabitants of Dwarka are always seeing the soul of all living beings, Krishna, in his loving features. He glances at them and favors them with sweet smiles. Om Jnanatimyandasya Gyananjana Shalakoya Chakshu Unmilitamina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto his lotus feet. So most of us, when we first came to a Hare Krishna temple, we weren't aware that we were actually stumbling in the door to the highest yoga process, actually, to actually connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's many inferior forms of spiritual practice, such as different types of yoga and meditation. But in the spiritual world, people are not meditating in silence somewhere secluded. They're engaged actively in the service of Krishna in different mellows. So devotional service is actually direct, we're directly engaging in spiritual activities. One time I was listening to a very amazing Kirtan on my phone device with my earplugs, and I was just walking around, and the Kirtan was really amazing, and I was feeling some sort of bliss. And I came into the temple for some reason. I think I forgot my water. I went to grab my water, and I saw this man. It seemed like it was his first time at the temple, with long hair, and he was sitting down and he was meditating in silence. And in the meantime, I was listening to this really amazing Kirtan, and I just had this realization: is comparatively, meditation on something impersonal is so boring compared to devotional service, where it's always ecstatic. So in this verse, the first word, aho bata, Srila Prabhupada translates it as how wonderful this is, that although on the earth planet Dwarka is situated, still because of the presence of the pure devotees and because of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly being in Dwarka, earth is glorified more than the heavenly planets. And Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport the glories of the heavenly planets, that first of all he explains how these great personalities such as these demigods, Varuna, and he explains Vayu and Chandra and Indra, they're residing there. And these great personalities, they are vastly greater in intelligence, physical abilities, and mystic opulence, and they're just completely superior to the earthly humans of this world. And he also explains how the heavenly planets, they have facilities for far greater sense enjoyment. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains in a purport, hundreds and thousands of times greater is the enjoyment on the heavenly planets than the earth planets. And without understanding the purpose, the ultimate purpose of the Vedas, which is pure love of God, many people will become attracted to the flowery words of the Vedas and become attracted to the karma kanda portion of engaging in pious activities to reach these heavenly planets where people live for thousands of years and enjoy celestial enjoyments. And Prabhupada in the purport also explains, he mentions the verses Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 20 and 21, and I'll just read those real quick so we understand where Prabhupada is coming from. One second. Chapter 9 is entitled, the King of All Knowledge. So Krishna is explaining that how devotional service is Raja Vidya, the king of all intelligence, the king of all knowledge is devotional service to Krishna. And in the text that Prabhupada quoted, Krishna is saying that those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, they worship me indirectly. Although they become purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planets of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. But he also explains in the 8th chapter that even if you reach the topmost planet Brahmaloka, all the planets in the universe are temporary and they're full of misery, because you ultimately have to leave your body. And the 21st text that he also quotes says, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the 3 Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. So in the purport to that last verse, Prabhupada explains that the Earth planet is in the middle planetary system, and according to one's desires and karma, he attains either higher planetary systems or lower planetary systems and different species of life. And he compares it to a Ferris wheel. For thousands of lifetimes, people are going up and down in the universe, higher and lower planets, going around and around in the cycle of samsara. And just like we have in Los Angeles, we have the Union Station, where it's the kind of like, I guess you can say, like the central pivot for so many metro buses. They start from the Union Station and they go to their respective destinations, and then at the end of the day they go back to the Union Station. So that's kind of like the Earth planet, especially in the human form of life. According to one's karma, he attains a specific destination. And actually only in the human form does one attain karma, because in the hellish planets they're just suffering their sinful reactions. In the heavenly planets they're just exhausting their pious credit. So in the human form we actually have a great responsibility in choosing where we're going to go, where our next destination is. And one time we were out on traveling Sankirtan, and in the van we were about to cook some potatoes. So I had this sweet potato, and it was growing like a root out of it, and I've never seen that before. So I told the person I was with, David Krishna Prabhu, I said, I think there's something wrong with the potato. There's something growing out of it. He's like, no, that's good. That means the potato is still alive. And then I was asking, so we're going to kill the potato? He said, yeah, it's bona fide. Humans are meant to eat potatoes. So we're going to cook the potato, offer it to Krishna, and that soul gets benefit. So there's so many life forms we can take. We can even take birth as a potato in this material world. But, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining to Rupa Goswami that in so many life forms and so many planets we take birth, but by the mercy of Krishna in the form of the spiritual master, he fructifies the seed of bhakti that's already within our heart. He fructifies that seed, and he helps nourish it. And by our own endeavor, by watering it and nourishing it ourselves, the spiritual master will guide us until that seed becomes a full plant, the plant of love of Godhead. So now that we're not potatoes and that we have a human form, we have an advantageous position. That it's also explained that in heaven, the enjoyment is so great that it's hard to become purely Krishna conscious, because the enjoyment is distraction. And same with the hellish planets, the suffering is so intense that it's also very difficult to purely remember Krishna. But on earth, the suffering is neither too much and the enjoyment is neither too much. It's kind of, we're in an intermediate platform. So in the human life, we have a great opportunity. And the rest of the verse in the purport, after Prabhupada is explaining how one can achieve the heavenly planets and come back down, he goes on to explain that beyond the heavenly planets, even on this earth, are the three holy places of Dwarka, Mathura, and Vrindavan, which are actually non-different from the spiritual world. That's why they're considered superior to the heavenly planets. And although different services to the Lord, different mellows, and the different abodes that Krishna resides in one sense, they're transcendentally equal. So and they're absolute. One cannot say that one is better than another. But on the other hand, there are according to the different rasas one approaches Krishna in, and according to the different mood of the different residences of the Lord, it's compared to some abodes are sweet, some are sweeter, and some are the sweetest, or perfect, more perfect, and the most perfect. So in Dwarka, although it's extremely sweet, the mood in Mathura is still more intimate. And even in Vrindavan, it's actually the most intimate, supremely intimate. And in the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, Rupa Goswami explains in the 9th verse how the different categories of spiritual places that Krishna performed this pastime. And he explains how the holy place of Mathura is superior to Vaikuntha, because the Lord actually appeared there in his original form, as Sham Sundar. And still more superior to Mathura are the transcendental forests of Vrindavan, because that's where Krishna performed his Ras Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, because Krishna lifted that hill with the left hand of his pinky for 7 days, and it was the place of many of Krishna's transcendental pastimes. But he goes on to further explain that the most sweet and most intimate place is Shri Radha Kund. It stands above all holy places. So actually the most holy place in the universe is Shri Radha Kund, here on Vrajabhumi in Vrindavan, here on earth. And he goes on to explain that the intelligent person, whenever he gets a chance, he will serve Radha Kund. And one time I was in the presence of I forgot her name. She lives in Vrindavan, and she has Prabhupada disciple, and she has the book store. Yeah, Daivi Shakti Mataji. She was giving a class, and she was mentioning, I forgot exactly what she was saying. She was mentioning Radha Kund, and in the purports, a nectar of instruction, Prabhupada actually explains that one should reside at Radha Kund and chant Krishna's names 24 hours a day. But okay, that's one instruction, but then there's other instructions where Prabhupada says that, we should just visit the holy dhams, and we should come back to the West to preach and spread the glories of the holy dham. So I was asking her, what does Prabhupada mean in the nectar of instruction when he says we should reside in Radha Kund? And she actually said, it's very funny you asked this, because I've asked the same exact question to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says that something along the lines that reciting or preaching the glories of Radha Kund is higher than physically reciting in Radha Kund. So in the mood of Dwarka, it also explains in this purport that Dwarka is opulent. The mellow there is Aishvarya Bhav, or awe and reverence. But there's also, the main mellows there are Dasya and Shanta. Although there's servitudeship, it's, recognizing that Krishna's the supreme personality of Godhead. He is the Lord of everyone. So they're worshiping him with great opulence. And actually, Prabhupada explains that in deity worship, in the preliminary stages, even though we might be worshiping Rukmini Dwarkadish or Radha Krishna, Radha Shamasundar, we approach in the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti stage, we approach the Lord in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan with great awe and reverence, with punctuality and cleanliness. So although Dwarka is intimate in the sense that, there's servitudeship, and Krishna really much loves this, and these are all pure devotees, but like I was saying, the mood of Vrindavan is more intimate in the sense that people don't love Krishna because he's God, because he's the Lord, but they just love Krishna out of causeless devotion. They just love Krishna because he's Krishna, because he's a beautiful cowherd boy. And just like we can imagine, we can picture living in a village or in Vrindavan, or if you've never been to Vrindavan, you can just picture living in a village, simple atmosphere, and Krishna running around there and performing his pastimes. And I like to imagine, like Abai, our Madhava Mahotsava's son, we all love him very much, not because he's some great personality, although he might be, but we love him because he's just Abai. We just love him because he's a cute kid, and we want him to grow healthy and grow up happy in devotional service. So in the same way, the residents of Vrindavan are experiencing that with Krishna, but to an infinitely more degree out of pure love for Krishna. And this is actually our constitutional position. And in the last two chapters of the first, or the last two sentences of the first paragraph, Prabhupada explains that, the Lord is the soul of all living beings. He desires always to have all the living beings in their sarup, or their original constitutional position in the spiritual world, to participate in transcendental life in his association. And Prabhupada explains His attractive features and sweet smiles go deep into the heart of everyone. And once it is so done, the living being is admitted into the kingdom of God, from which no one returns. And there's one verse by one of the women of Vrindavan, where she says that if one desires to live happily in this world, if one desires to live happily in this world with their family and at home, with nice sense enjoyment, then please don't go to the bank of Yamuna, because there you'll see the form, threefold bending form of Shamasundar, and you'll become enchanted by this form, and you won't want anything to do with this mortal world. So although we still may be in the lower stages of devotion, by strictly following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the Gurus, Srila Prabhupada and the previous Acharyas are giving access to this verse in the Brahma Samhita, where Lord Brahma is explaining Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, that one whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love of God, they see Krishna everywhere, and their hearts are melting with ecstasy and devotion. So just by following what Prabhupada has given us, especially this Nam Sankirtan, this chanting of the holy names, and giving Nam Sankirtan to others, very quickly we receive the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda, and we come to these stages of possessing the ointment for our eyes of pure love of God. And in our Sampradaya specifically, in the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, especially in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, we are Rupa Nugas. Anuga means to follow. So we're following the 6 Goswamis. And Srila Prabhupada is the 11th descendant of Rupa Goswami. And the Prabhupada disciples here, we can see that they are the 12th descendants, and we ourselves are the 13th descendants of Rupa Goswami. It's not so far in the past that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on earth preaching the Sankirtan movement. So our specific Sampradaya actually aims at Vrajadam. This is actually the goal of all of our sadhana, of all of our chanting. We are aiming at the most supreme holy place, Sri Vrindavan Dham. And in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu it explains that just by strictly following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, according to what the Acharyas have given us, one automatically comes to the stages of Raganuga Bhakti. And like I was explaining, Anuga means to follow. So Raga means to follow a raga or a mellow. Ragatmika is what the pure devotees in the spiritual world possess. Atmika means like to possess, and raga means a mellow. So Raganuga means to follow the inhabitants of Vrindavan, to follow a specific inhabitant that the heart develops an attraction for. And this shouldn't come artificially. Some people will Sahajas will artificially step over the process of going through Anartha Nivriti and purifying the heart sufficiently enough to naturally come to the stages. But if we just follow strictly Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, automatically we come to these stages. And although that Raganuga Bhakti is a very high stage, it's still in the Sadhana Bhakti platform. It's Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. It's not the goal. It's on the path to the goal. The goal is prema, pure love of God. And so the Vaishnava Acharyas have arranged our sadhana in such a way that we are able, even in a neophyte stage or in a preliminary stage, we are actually able to get hints of these higher realizations. Just like, in the morning we sing the Tulsi prayers. Tulsi is a pure devotee in Vrindavan. It's not just a plant that we're just mechanically singing a song to. This is a pure devotee in the form that has come to this earth to bless the devotees, that if we take advantage of her association, that we can advance very quickly. And it might be inconceivable to us in a neophyte stage, but Prabhupada has given us a song that we are actually praying to become damsels of Vraja, maidservants of Srimati Radharani, and followers. And we're praying that we become followers of Tulsi Maharani in the spiritual world. So this is a very deep song. We should know the lyrics and the meaning to the words that we're singing. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we sing every morning, Yasumati Nandana Vrajabodha Nagara, These songs are meant to help us dive deep into the mellows of devotional service. And if we're preparing ourselves for Vrajadam, even though in a neophyte stage we're reading the 10th Krishna book, the 10th canto, these explanations of Dwarka, we can understand that although we're still on the earth, if you were to buy a plane ticket to, let's say, Germany, you would want to know, the people and how they are in Germany, the culture, the language that they're speaking, what the weather is like. So in the same way, we are preparing ourselves for Vrindavan. So we should understand the people of Vrindavan. We should understand what the mood is like. We should understand the culture there, how the people behave. And thus, this sadhana bhakti is actually the ticket to achieve that destination. And, sometimes devotees will become complacent that, we have so many material desires. And, prema bhakti just seems like so far out there. It's like too difficult to achieve. It's too far away. But actually, it's within our heart. It's not that it's too difficult to grasp. Yes, we may have material desires, but we're so fortunate that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the Sankirtan movement. So it shouldn't be misunderstood that only like very few selected people can achieve the ultimate goal of life, and the rest of us are just going to have to struggle with our anarthas our whole life. No, this process is meant to purify us from all our anarthas. And on that note, actually, tomorrow is the beginning of a very ecstatic month, the month of Kartik. And there's a verse, I think it's in one of the Puranas, where Krishna says that of all days, his favorite day is Ekadashi, and of all months, his favorite month is Kartik, where any devotional service we perform is magnified actually 1,000 times. So we are going to be singing the Damodarashtakam, where we have the opportunity to dive deep into these pastimes of Krishna as a child in Vrajabhumi. And we should memorize these songs. We should know what the words mean, and this will help us dive deep. And just by diving deep, we gain a higher taste. If we don't have a higher taste, we'll look for a higher taste elsewhere. And, there's so many, in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, we have our sadhana and we have our preaching engagements, which actually there's no difference because preaching is also sadhana. We have to learn so many things while preaching. But although there's different preaching departments, the best preaching is for yourself to become a pure devotee. Because in many places it explains that a pure devotee can deliver the whole world. So we might be distributing a few books every day, but if you become a pure devotee, then you're eligible to deliver the whole world. And Srila Prabhupada is so revolutionary that although there are these holy places that are actually residing mainly in India, like Dwarka and Mathura, Vrindavan, Mayapur, etc., he has come to the West on the order of his spiritual master and is establishing holy dhams everywhere. In Los Angeles, one of the most sinful places on earth, a holy dham of New Dwarka is reigning supreme and spreading the holy names to every town and village of LA, Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside. That's our mission, is actually to somehow or another help people come in contact with this Krishna consciousness movement. It also explains in the 13th chapter of this first canto that wherever there is a pure devotee, that place automatically becomes a holy dham or a tirtha. So we have the responsibility for ourselves to become the most advanced as we can according to our capacity for where we're at. And it's not so many people have the sufficient intelligence to come to the holy dham and engage in devotional service. So we have to be like moving tirthas, moving holy dhams, where we go out to the people and we bring the temple to the people. That's actually the goal of the Sankirtan movement. It's called Nagar Sankirtan, bringing the holy names out. And Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he gave us a very nice example. He knew he was going to leave his body. He was dying of cancer. And he could have easily went to Vrindavan and left his body there. But he decided to give us an example to leave his body in Gitanagari. which is in Pennsylvania, a farm community that Prabhupada established. And he showing us the example that Prabhupada's temples are non-different from the holy dhams. They're considered embassies of the spiritual world. Just like you might go to the Indian embassy, although it's in America, but it's considered it's considered India's property. So in the same way, these New Dwarka or any other temple that Prabhupada has established or his devotees have established, non-different from Vaikuntha. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them. Yes, Gauranga Prema Prabhu.
Thank you very much for the wonderful class. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he was mentioning the importance of the holy dham like Dwarka, Mathura, and Vrindavan. What about Jagannath Puri, where Lord Chaitanya have stayed there for 24 years?
Yeah, I don't think Prabhupada was just saying those three just to limit that those are the only holy dhams. He was just giving an example. You can reside in Vrindavan, Mathura, or Dwarka. But yeah, there's many holy dhams. Jagannath Puri, Navadvip, many holy places in India.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Archita Prabhu?
Jai Prabhu, thank you for agreeing to give class this morning on short notice. Just two things on that last question. Yes, there are many holy dhams, but if we read the Nectar of Instruction, we see that there is higher than Mathura, Vrindavan, and the highest place of Vrindavan is Radhakund. So like that, because Lord Chaitanya's followers, they were with him in Jagannath Puri. He could have told them to stay there and preach from there, but he sent the 6 Goswamis to Vrindavan, and he sent so many devotees to go to. He himself went to Vrindavan, so he emphasized the importance of Vrindavan. But we've also heard from Bhaktivinoda Thakur that in Kali Yuga, especially, Mayapur is the place where all of the potency of all of the holy dhams is concentrated, and that's why Prabhupada has established his world headquarters in Mayapur. And the Adbhuta Mandir is going up in Mayapur and not Vrindavan. We already have Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. Prabhupada could have just said, that's it, let's just all concentrate on that. But no, still he went further. He built the Adbhuta Mandir in Mayapur. So Mayapur is considered to be the holiest of the holy in this age. But, as he also pointed out, Ananda Kirtan Prabhu pointed out, that wherever you are, if you're a pure devotee, then Vrindavan is there. So, and then I just wanted to point out one thing, that you mentioned that the ladies that are offering these prayers, they said don't go to the, but that was Rupa Goswami who wrote that.
No, I wasn't saying that the Dwarka residents were saying that. I was saying, because I forgot where that quote was, but I've heard it many times, and I was saying one gopi said that.
No, it's Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami is a gopi ultimately,
Rupa
but
Manjari.
he wrote that verse, Mira Monkey, that if you have any desire for happiness through, society, friendship, and love, don't go down to the banks of the Yamuna, because you'll see Krishna and you'll lose all taste for that. So that was Rupa Goswami.
Jai, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.